Welcome everyone to Market Mechanics 101, where we break down what really happens behind the scenes in options trading. To navigate the options market efficiently, you have to understand how the system works, who's buying, who's selling, and how the money flows. Every trade has two sides, a buyer and a seller. For a transaction to happen, both must hold opposing views on price or value. When one profits, the other loses. That's the essence of a zero-sum game. This constant push and pull isn't just about gains and losses, it's what drives market efficiency. As capital shifts between retail traders, institutions, and market makers, prices adjust to reflect new information. Just like any other financial instrument, options have two key price points. The bid price, which is the highest price someone's willing to pay for, and the ask price, the lowest price someone's willing to sell for. The difference between the two is called the bid-ask spread, and it's an important gauge. Why? A tighter spread usually means that there's a lot of buyers and sellers involved, which leads to lower trading costs and more efficient pricing. On the other hand, a wide spread often signals lower liquidity, fewer participants, which means higher costs and a greater chance of getting filled at a non-desirable price. When we talk about execution and order, there are three main types you can use when trading: market, limit, and stop orders. Each one works differently and can have a big impact on how your trade plays out. When you place a market order, you're saying, I want my order to be filled right now. It's the fastest way to enter a trade. But if there's not enough volume at the current price, you might get filled at a worse price than you expected. In this case, you're choosing speed over price. If you want more control, you'll go towards a limit order. You set the maximum price you're willing to pay or the minimum you are willing to sell for, and then wait for the market to come to you. The trade only happens if someone agrees to your terms. While you might get a better price, there's also a chance you'll never get filled. With a stop order, you're preparing for a specific scenario. You set a trigger price, and once the market reaches that level, your order is activated, usually as a market order. It's often used for managing risk. For example, you set a stop loss to automatically sell if the price drops too far. Now, let's talk about the players who keep the entire system running smoothly: market makers. Their role is simple but essential. They quote both sides of the trade, the bid and the ask. This keeps the market liquid and efficient, making sure there's always someone to trade with at almost any time. When you buy an option, chances are they're the ones selling it. And when you sell, well, you guessed it, they're probably the ones buying it. Market makers don't usually bet on market direction. To really understand how they work, let's look at three typical scenarios they face. Number one, balance scenario. This is the ideal case. There's a healthy amount of buyers and sellers. When one customer wants to sell, the market maker buys. Later, when another customer wants to buy, the market maker sells. They act as a middleman, passing contracts from one side to the other and collecting the spread, without holding much risk. The second scenario is when there's more supply than demand. Now, imagine there's a lot of traders who want to sell a specific option contract, but there's not enough buyers. The market maker keeps buying, but they're now stuck holding long positions. They didn't plan to hold them, they just couldn't find anyone to take the other side. That is unwanted exposure. The third scenario is when there's more demand than supply. Now flip it. Everyone wants to buy the same option, but no one's selling. This creates an imbalance. The market maker steps in and sells to these buyers, filling that imbalance. They end up holding a short position, something they don't necessarily want. In scenario number 2 and 3, the market maker ends up holding positions they didn't want, and they can't just sit on that risk. They need to protect themselves, especially in fast-moving, liquid markets like SPX. That's where hedging comes in. More specifically, delta hedging, a strategy where they reduce risk by trading the underlying asset to stay as neutral as possible. Speaking of highly liquid markets, SPX options are amongst the most liquid in the world. We're talking about hundreds of strike prices, a wide range of expirations, and massive trading volume. This kind of activity attracts serious players, institutions, hedge funds, and of course, market makers. And when market makers are this active, they can quickly accumulate huge positions that need to be hedged constantly so they can manage risk and keep their book balanced. So, you might be wondering, how can we get an idea of what market makers might actually be holding? Most traders turn to one popular metric, open interest. Open interest simply shows the number of open contracts at each strike and expiration. In other words, it tells you, hey, there's a lot of contracts that are open here. But here's the problem. Open interest doesn't tell the full story. It gives you zero insight on whether they were opened by buyers or sellers. And to make things worse, open interest is only updated once per day. This makes open interest a blunt tool when you're trying to understand what really matters. Who's holding what and which way are they leaning? That's where something more helpful comes in, net positioning. Instead of just counting contracts, net positioning shows whether market participants, like market makers, are holding more long or short positions at each strike and expiration. This extra layer of information changes everything. It gives traders a much clearer view of the actual positioning, potential risks, and hedging pressure that could show up as price and time move. So in short, net positioning fills the gap that open interest leaves behind. It helps you see what's really happening under the surface of the options market. As we saw, options trading is a zero-sum game. When one trader wins, another takes the loss. A tighter bid-ask spread usually means higher liquidity and lower trading costs. When liquidity is lower, we generally see a wider spread and therefore higher trading costs. Market makers play a key role by keeping the market liquid, but they also carry risk. So they hedge constantly, especially in fast-moving markets like SPX options. While many traders rely on open interest, it only tells you part of the story. Net positioning goes deeper, showing who's holding what and helping you better understand market pressure and potential price moves. And that's it for the overview on the market structure and positioning. We'll see you in the next module.